Good morning, y'all, and happy Tuesday. I am Tara Hewlett, coming live from Back Pain and Joint Center of Texas. I come on every Tuesday morning for the summer and share with you guys a favorite recipe or dish that we cook here at our house. So about a year ago, we started a low inflammation diet, incorporating that, and that is when we do not eat sugar, glutens, and dairy. So we share the recipes that we enjoy here at the house with you guys. So we are today gonna make meatball subs. So I'm gonna put on my apron because I chose to wear white today, which wasn't very smart with meatball subs. So that way I don't get all dirty. So let me get that on. All right, there we go. Okay, so to get started on our, let's roll up my sleeves so they don't get all. My husband and myself are the founders of Back Pain and Joint Center of Texas. That's located here in Conroe, Texas. So if you're in the area, you can stop by and say hi. All right, let's wash my hands before we get all of the meat. All right, so to make our meatball subs today, we are going to use ground beef. You could use turkey if you wanted. That's a leaner meat, so that'll work. So I just go with a grass-fed, and it's good if you can do on top of that finish. So try to get it as clean as you possibly can for your budget or the grocery store. Not all grocery stores have finished beef. They'll have like grass-fed, but not that extra finish that you see right there. So, but either way, if you want to do this or ground turkey. So I'm just gonna open my package and dump my meat in. All right, so I'm just gonna do a pound of ground beef. All right, and let's cut up some garlic cloves here. Hopefully you guys are all having a great morning. Lovely that the sun is out all this week. So get out and get your sunshine, right? Oh my goodness, so exciting. All right, so let's just finely cut up your garlic, like minced. Now, if you have a mincer, you can use a mincer. I just don't love mincers. I think they're such a pain to clean. I think that's what it boils down to. So I'm just gonna finely chop mine up. And if you have a mincer and you like that, go that route. All right, that's one garlic clove going in. Then we'll do our second one. I just finally slice it and then chop it all up. Okay, 2 garlic cloves. And those are good sized ones. So if you have little bitty garlic cloves that you're peeling out, I would do 3 to 4 because those are pretty big. All right, so we're only gonna need half of an onion. So if you're at the grocery store, find your smaller onion for this. If you do 2 pounds, then you'll use a whole onion. But if you're just doing 1. So for my family of 6, I do 2 pounds. We actually had this last night for dinner. So I'm just making some extras so they can have more for lunch today. So they'll be eating this for lunch as well. They love meatball subs here. Okay. And same thing, we're just gonna finely dice our onion. get it as fine as you can. So I have a friend we invited over like a year ago for dinner for burgers, and he does not like onions at all. And I love onions, and I love onions in anything really. So he was like, not a fan. So I guess the smaller you can get it for people who don't like onions, the better. But I love onions. I have no problem with them in my dishes. So just chop it up nice and fine. All right, so now our onions are nice and fine. And we're just gonna toss that, or not toss, we're gonna throw that in there with it. So right now, we have our meat, our garlic, and our onion. Now we're gonna add some fresh parsley. I really like the flat leaf parsley. You can go either route, the flat or your normal, the curly. So let's cut off like half of the leaves. And I just roll it up nice and tight like this, so then I can go in there and finally chop that up. All right, so there's our parsley. Now let's go ahead and throw that in there. All right, and now for the rest. Let's see. We are going to need some basil. And let's see how much. I'm gonna measure it out as I pour it for you guys. Let's do like a teaspoon. Yeah, a teaspoon of basil. Half of a teaspoon of thyme. So we're gonna do half of a teaspoon of thyme. Oops, let me get that lid on all the way. And then we have some oregano. And let's do a teaspoon of oregano. I love oregano. All right, and can't get the lid on. There we go. Oregano. All right, so we did a teaspoon of basil, a teaspoon of oregano, and a half of a teaspoon of thyme leaves. All right, and then now let's get our pan on. That way, as soon as our meatballs are ready, we can cook those. And I'm turning it on like medium-high heat. All right, so now this is the fun part where you get to get in there, and I feel like a kid, where you get to like crumble and it's, you know, sticky. All right, so we're just gonna get in there and mix it all up like so. Oh, you know what? Let me pause that. We forgot. I forgot. Ah, salt and pepper. I'll use my clean hand as much as I can. So we're just like an eighth of a teaspoon of salt, I would say. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do it this way with my hand. We're gonna try. There we go. And then the same with cracked pepper, just a couple cracks of the pepper. So just till you start to see the cracked pepper in there. This is a little bit harder with my gross hand. There we go. Okay. There. Okay, let's get that all in there mixed up. You want to be able, like that, you can tell all the meat has the seasonings and garlic and the onion. So like this. See how you can just see like there's just so much flavor in there with the meat? Okay, so now we're just gonna take it, and I have small hands, so this is probably, I don't know, you're gonna make them about a little ball size. I actually, not little, I make mine pretty big. because I don't know what, we just like them that size. And sometimes then I can cut them in half to fit in, but if you want to make them smaller, you can. So I kind of do a little to fit in my palm there, a little big, and roll them up. So we're just gonna roll our meatball subs, or meatballs. Same thing there. I'll let you know how many I get out of a pound so you can roughly see, but the size. Because they shrink. I don't like them to make them too small because then they shrink down. So see how you can see like how much herbs and seasoning, or you know, and the onions in there, all the stuff that's going to make it so flavorful. Right. It's like being a kid. It's like playing with like Play-Doh, right? Just get your hands all dirty. Sometimes as adults, that's the joy. That's something I do like about cooking, is because it kind of makes you feel like a kid again, because you get to do these things that we usually just don't do very much anymore. All right, so I made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I made like 15, 16 of these little meatballs. So I'm gonna show you. Here's all the meatballs. So I'm gonna take them and put them in our pan that's already on the stove getting warm, so it's ready for us. All right, you got that in there. Let me wash my hands from all the meat. Okay, so while those are cooking, hold on, I had a little thing pop up. There we go. Okay, while those are cooking, I like to let them like brown on the side, and then I flip them over. I kind of like that texture of it browned, adds a little crunch to it, as it gets softer when you add the sauce. Okay, so why I say they're memorable. I didn't start off telling you this. That way we can talk about it while these are cooking. I'm gonna put the lid on there to keep that heat in, and then it's not so loud. Okay, so every time we have meatball subs, it takes us back to years ago, earlier when we were married. So a few years into our marriage, we moved up to Northern California for my husband to be an associate doctor when he had graduated. And he would work at the, different booths and events in town. And so we lived in this sweet little town in Northern California called Red Bluff, just adorable. And they, every week over the summer, had the local farmers market, and it just lined up the town square, and it was the sweet town square with the nice buildings and the floors, and is all around the courthouse there. And so they would have a band over the summer playing at the courthouse, and so my husband would be working the booth there for the office he worked for. And I had my son Kalani, who at that time was like 2, maybe, not even quite 2. And then Bella was just an infant. And so we would, she wasn't even 1, she was like 9 months, 8 months, something like that. And so we would go out and go support Dad and listen to the local band. And so I would often make the meatball subs for our dinner, and I would wrap them up in foil and take them down, and we'd have a little picnic. And so he'd take a break from it and eat some dinner with us, and then get back to work. And then we would hang out over there and listen to the band and have our meatball subs. So every time we have meatball subs, it takes us back to Red Bluff, California, to the farmers market I think it was Wednesday night. and have meatball subs. So it always kind of brings a smile to our face and makes us think of, you know, years ago when we were young and our kids were, we only had 2 kids and they were itty bitty. So hopefully you guys will enjoy these meatball subs and they can be memorable for you guys too and put a smile on your face as well when you, it's always good. I think that's what food does for us. I think food, one, I love it because it gathers us together and it brings back memories, whether it was Aunt Betty's something or Grandma's this. That's why food's so special. All right, so we have our meatballs going. Let's check to see if they're starting to, they're just starting to brown. Oh, I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so I like, that way it will fall on the cutting board. When it's the first side, I like it to brown like this. Do you see that? Good morning, Lee. So I like it to brown, and then I will flip it over. So now that they're starting to brown, I'm gonna flip them. So then the other side now can brown as well. So they're kind of spaced like this. Now, I am not one that says you can't have, I mean, I put in last night for dinner all of our 2 pounds of meatballs, so it was double this. So there they are, all the meatballs cooking in the pan. And what's great about the meat is you don't have to add any olive oil or anything because of the juice of the little bit of fat. I think it was like, let me see, I think it was like 85, yeah, the 85-15 percent of meat, which is good for meatballs. Like for burgers, you need more fat, so they'll do it. But for your meat, for meatballs or spaghetti or something like that, you don't. Okay, so while our meatballs finish cooking, we're gonna go ahead and turn on the broiler for our sub part. So let me get that going. All right. So our broiler, we're gonna want on high heat, and that's because we're gonna toast our subs just a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and get started on our sauce part. And we'll grab a spoon for that. Okay, so I used to years ago sometimes make a sauce, but now I don't. I think it's best just to buy a can jar and then just add additional, because it never has enough seasoning to me. It needs additional. So otherwise you can sit there with your tomato sauces and then add some tomato paste to it, but this is just way easier. So find whatever brand is your favorite. So I will tell you, for years my favorite was actually Classico. I loved their like basil and garlic one. I think it was like sweet basil garlic. But when we started this, I realized all spaghetti sauces just about add sugar to their sauce. And they say it's to help cut the acidity of the tomato. So, you know, there you go. But I don't think it's needed for flavor or anything. So, and since sugar is in so much stuff and we have so much in our everyday diet that we need, I find one without sugar. So I found this Newman's, and right here it says no sugar added. I mean, it's really small. So the trickiest thing is going down the aisle of the spaghetti jar and finding one, because some of them have it really bold, like no sugar, and some are like this one, which is like teeny, let me angle it so you can see it right there. Teeny, teeny, tiny, and it says no sugar. So look for Newman's, and this is an organic one, and it says no sugar added. So I like it because it's just, I mean, there was nothing, it was like tomato puree, diced tomatoes, olive oil, garlic, basil, carrot puree, onions, salt, black pepper, and fennel. And that was it. So it's not full of anything that's not good for you. It's everything in there is good. So, and it tasted good. This is the olive oil, basil, and garlic one. So give this one a shot if you haven't tried a Newman's brand. Now I will say Costco does make a no sugar, but it's really hard to find. This one I just found at our local grocery store, and they had several different flavors of the Newman. So I'm just gonna pour this into our jar. So typically I would just pour it straight into the pan, but since our meatballs aren't ready, I'm gonna mix all of it in here and then throw it in the pan. Which works, because then you kind of have to make sure all your seasoning gets all around and not just on the meatballs, and it's all around in the sauce in there. Okay. Let's scoop out the extra sauce. So for one, I just do 1 jar for 1 pound of meatballs. Okay, then we're gonna add some more fresh garlic, because garlic is amazing. And even though it said it had garlic in it, I always think it needs more. So if you're not a huge fan of garlic, you can omit this part. Mr. Lee, do you like meatball subs? That is something we love here. My kids were so excited when I told them last night we were gonna make it. They were, oh my goodness, and then my daughter came down and was like, the house smells so good. So they were very excited. All right, so we're just gonna finally mince it. If you have a mincer, use your mincer. But I don't like mine, so. I guess I should say I don't like washing it. I think it's easier to use the cutting board knife. So we're just gonna mince your, good morning. I have children walking in the kitchen now. It's summertime, so they're all sleeping in. Enjoying that. So we're just gonna add our 1 clove of garlic in there. So we just have the 1 clove we just added. And now we're gonna add some basil. The same herbs we added to our meatballs. We'll add a little bit more to there. So I'm gonna do, let's see, probably, yeah, let's do a 1/2 teaspoon of basil, a 1/2 of oregano, and then we're just gonna do a couple of shakes of the thyme in there. So that would probably be like a 1/4 of a teaspoon. All right, some cracked pepper. It was like 10 turns. I don't know what that would be equivalent to, but just season it, and a little bit of salt. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of extra garlic powder, like 2 little dashes, so not a ton. All right, and then we will add a little bit of extra of our fresh parsley in there. So I'm gonna just pluck off some of this, and that is like, let me see, I'll measure it out. A fresh parsley is different, so it's like a little over a tablespoon of fresh parsley. So it's just this little bitty amount. That looks like a lot, but it's really not. So yet again, just like we did earlier, let's kind of roll it up. It's easier to chop it at the beginning, and then just slide it up, and then we can go in there and dice it. All right, let's go ahead and add our parsley in there. Okay, so that was oregano, some fresh parsley, oregano, basil, some thyme, salt and pepper, and a little dash of garlic powder. Okay, and let's go ahead and mix it up. And this is where then I kind of look and see, do I need to add anything else? Just like the meatballs, I like to see my herbs in there. I like my sauce to have lots of flavor, not be too tomatoey. So I just like to have, yeah, that looks good. So we can start to see some, because I feel like canned jars are more just like a marinara kind of. They're thicker, but just more tomato based. So, so now we can see some of our herbs. I don't know if y'all can see, but there's some herbs you can see in there. All right, let's check on these meatballs. They need to go a little bit longer. They're almost done. The good thing about is like if you're not quite sure they're done, because I make them so big, I can easily, like I did with this one, they're hot. I could just cut it in half so I can see. Let me split it this way so you can see. I just cut this little piece off so then I can see inside. And it is done, but I like them a little bit more toastier on there. So we'll give that another minute. Okay, so now we'll get started. You know, we're gonna throw our sauce in there. While those finish up, let's throw our sauce. Now this is where why I put my apron on. This is where it gets messy. I'm gonna try to point it to the wall so it'll splash that way instead of on me, which is kind of backwards to the normal way of spooning it in. All right, well I succeeded there. Let's see if I can finish the rest of the recipe without getting it on me. All right, let's give it all a mix so then the meatballs are all tossed into the sauce. And I do not drain my juice from the meatballs, the fat part. I like it in there since it will make the sauce a little bit thinner so it's not so thick. Now if you want, you can. I just never do. So see how it's all we're all mixed up now. The meatballs with the sauce and then any of the juice for the meatballs. We're gonna put that back on the stove, let that cook up more on a little bit higher heat. So I like to cook and get that sauce all warm. All right, so now we'll work on our bread part, our sub part. Let me grab a cookie sheet real quick. And our bread knife. Okay. So all right, this is where these are called Against the Grain, and I just found these in the freezer section at our local grocery store. The kids really liked them last night. And they're gluten-free. Now I do have to have a disclaimer, they're gluten-free, grain-free, nuts, no gums or soy or corn and peanuts. So that's good there's no soy or corn in them because a lot of gluten-free will go that way. I will have to have a disclaimer that they do have dairy in them. So we usually do not do dairy, but I could not find, our go-to bread is Canyon Bakehouse, but I couldn't find any of their subs anywhere. So we went this way. So if you do not, you can do this, and if your body reacts really bad to dairy, don't do this. Just do like you could do a loaf of bread. Let me do this on the cutting board instead of that. So we're just gonna cut this in half. And this you keep in the freezer, and then when it's ready, you just take it out and let it thaw just for a few minutes. So I'm gonna show you how we're gonna do these. So I cut him in half, and it's just like a baguette is what it is. So I cut it in half, and then now I'm just gonna slice one side of it and let it open up like this, so then it'll toast inside the oven. Okay, so we have our baguettes we're gonna use for our subs, and we're gonna throw them in, and it's just gonna take in the broiler like just a few minutes. We'll count it out, but keep an eye on it because everyone's broiler cooks differently at different temperatures, and you don't want it. I like mine. I'll show you how I like mine. I like mine toasted on the edges, definitely more like black, so then the inside is nice and warm. So we're gonna throw these in. And I do put mine on the top shelf if you are worried about getting, if you don't like it so toasted on the edges, you can put it in the middle of it or the bottom. All right, so we're gonna cut up a little bit more parsley, to sprinkle on top. So we're looking at like, you know, just a little bit. I mean, that was even smaller than before, like half a tablespoon. And let's dice or chop that up nice and fine. Okay, a little bit finer there. Okay, let's check on our meatballs over here. Oh yes. So do you see how our sauce is, I like to cook it on higher at the end, so then, do you see how on the edge, it's just gonna smoke. On the edges, it's getting thicker. So then it thickens up. Yes, that is so good. Oh my goodness. Okay, these are ready and they smell so good. All right, we're gonna wait on our subs and then we can assemble. Let's give a check on those because they do cook. Oh, yep, perfect. Okay, so this is how I like mine. If you do not like yours like this, you can put them on a lower shelf or keep them in longer. I mean, that was just like a, what, 2 minutes or so? I don't know. I like mine like this. Nice and toasty on the edges. So then the middle is nice and warm. Okay, so we're gonna take our plate and then our sandwich. Oh, it's hot. All right, and we're just gonna scoop. I put 3 meatballs in mine. So there's the first 2, 3. Get them so they snug all in there. So here's all 3 of them all lined up. It's like little peas in a bed, right? And then I scoop some sauce on top because it's so yummy when it makes the bread all soggy and oh, so good. All right, and then we'll just sprinkle it with a little bit of fresh parsley. And there you go. There is your sub sandwich. And what I love about these, like I said, is we ate these at the farmer's market for dinner almost weekly because we love them and they were easy. I needed something that we could have easily eat without utensils since we were at the market and my husband was in the middle of working. You can just fold it over and wrap them up in foil and there you have your sub sandwich. And it's a quick little bite and you're done. So you guys have a great Tuesday and a wonderful week and I will see you guys next week. I come on live every Tuesday around 9 a.m. Give or take. You guys, I think we have some events coming up this month at the office. We're doing an inner building event, so check our Facebook page for those dates, as well as we're going to do a in-person cooking towards the end of the month. So you can check all that out, we post all that on our Facebook page for you guys. So you guys have a great day and I will see you guys next week. Bye.